like the moving into Madison Heights because that's where the money's at.
Mm-hmm.
But it also means that in order to make those choices, other choices had to be made. And so that's why I'm like, I think it's important that we at least point that out. So
Absolutely. In the world of business, there are a lot of choices. There are a lot of lies. There are a lot of shortcuts. There are a lot of people taking those shortcuts and telling those lies. And then there are the people who choose to do it right. At a time when so often profit is king, those people are increasingly rare. But when those people are in charge, good things happen. Fortunately, some of those people are business owners. Some of those people are bosses. And we're here to showcase the best ones. I'm your host, Leela Sinha, with co-host Lisa Robin Young. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is really exciting because it is the third season of my PowerPivot podcast. This is episode 1, so we're just getting started again. And the season theme is Best Bosses. So I just keep seeing all these businesses online that are doing things right, and I want to lift them up. Today's topic is Detroit 75 Kitchen, which I came across on Facebook Reels. And I'm delighted to have you all joining us. This is also a new era for us because, one, I am video recording, which I have not done before. This is our first run at like a video option for the podcast, although we will also be publishing it as usual in podcast places if you, like me, tend to just lean into the audio. And this is the third season of this podcast where we talk about using our power for good. You know, when I started this, I was thinking about how everybody talks about power is evil, power is bad. And I was like, no. We have to talk about how we could use power well. Otherwise, when we get power, we don't handle it well. We mishandle it, or we shy away from it, or we do bad things because that's the only model of power that we've seen or thought about up until that moment. So instead of allowing ourselves to do that, let's imagine forward and let's take a look at the world and find people who are good examples of already doing that well. So especially and specifically in the business world, the financial, but especially the business world, I'm really interested in these questions because I don't think we're going to get out of capitalism this week. I just don't. I know some people who are like, yes, I'm a proud capitalist, but not proud of all the things that capitalism does. And I know other people who are like, burn it all to the ground. But one way or the other, we have to deal with the fact that here we are right now, and what can we do to make the best of the situation we're in. So in each episode, we'll be highlighting a different business that I have run across, or Lisa's run across, or that you all have sent to us, that has been really doing things well in one of a number of different axes, or ideally all of them, like taking good care of your people, taking good care of your founders, taking good care of the communities that you interact with, or something else that I haven't thought of. Why not all of it? Making good moves for the world, maybe all three. So I'm super excited because I get to do this, and I get to do this with a co-host, which I've also never done. This is Lisa Robin Young. She is from Detroit, is that correct?
I'm actually from Flint, about an hour north of Detroit, but Michigan's my home state. So
okay. Yeah. And she has experience in all kinds of things. We do similar kinds of work with businesses, helping them with their internal infrastructure and systems, helping create those systems that maybe support that goodness in the world through the business. And she and I have known each other for a number of years online, and then she had the good grace to move to my town. And so now we're both in the same place, and we got to meet up in person a bit ago and had such great chemistry that when she said she was interested in co-hosting, I said, absolutely, this is going to be great. So I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself a little more, and then we'll move on.
Cool. So my background is twofold. One is performing arts, so creative entrepreneurship, but also business. I have been a consultant for businesses of all shapes and sizes, coming up on 20 plus years now. Been in the online world for more than 30 years. And in that time, seen a lot, done a lot, helped a lot of people. My goal has always been profitable, sustainable business, building a business that works for how you're wired to work, and supporting organizations to have strategies that work with the capacities that they have, right? So that they can grow in healthy ways. I don't know what else I need to say. I've written a couple of books. You can find all of those details on the interwebs. I'm an internet dinosaur. I've been around forever. But I'm really excited to be able to talk shop, as it were, about these different businesses that you've brought forward. When you put out the call for potential co-hosts, I've never done the co-hosting gig either. I've always done a solo show. My show ran for 10 years, and it was just me talking into the camera about this, that, and everything else. And so to be able to have a conversation with another person on a regular basis about the things that we're seeing, the patterns that we're finding, because that's really who I am. I'm a pattern finder. And deconstructing some of that so that our audience can then say, okay, here's how I can apply that to my business, or here's what I can take away from that that's going to be impactful for me. That's the stuff that really gets my juices flowing. That's the stuff that really gets me excited. And I love that we are starting with a business that's right in my hometown backyard. So thanks for having me.
I'm so delighted you're here. And when we were trying to pick which business to highlight first, because I've been thinking about this since like December. I have a list. Yeah. But I said to Lisa, hey, so what do you think? And she's like, well, I'm from Michigan. And so I said, great. That's there we go. That's the thing. So Detroit 75 Kitchen, they build themselves, like their online presence is very down to earth. Their line on their homepage is a proper sandwich shop owned by two brothers. It doesn't get much more basic than that. But I think that's where the basic ends.
Indeed. For sure. I mean, just scouring the media about this business, you can tell that Mike's in the kitchen, and what's the other
Ahmad.
brother's name? Ahmad is the business guy, right? He went to Wharton School. He went to U of M's Ross School. He is very, very business savvy. And you look at the stories that they're telling online, and you look at the original starting history. So this company actually started as a food truck in the parking lot of the truck stop that their family owned. And it's kind of grown from there, but they still have the flagship store situated beautifully between the Ambassador Bridge and the new Gordie Howe Bridge that's almost built, to take care of the people in that community and to serve that traffic. So you've got a lot of truckers coming in. They're right next door to the police station, so they've got good security, right? Like there's a lot of really smart business decisions that were made in getting this company off the ground. And once it got off the ground, they did some really neat things that have now positioned them to be way more than just a basic sandwich shop, even though they're still serving out of the same, food truck business model that they've been doing. They have branched into some other things. So I'm excited that we're going to get to talk about some of that too.
Yeah. And you can hire that food truck to come to your location now, if you want the whole food truck experience, which is one of those really smart things that I think they've done, is they've looked at what the market needs. And they've said, how can we leverage the cachet of this particular business? Because they've gotten a lot of attention. They say they had some just great lucky breaks early on. And so people, at least in the area, know about Detroit 75 Kitchen. Like they know they've built a name for themselves. They're not just another food truck.
Right. And if you look at a map, right, if you pull up Google Maps and you look at where this establishment is located, it is a somewhat industrial space, but there are food joints populated around this area, right? So there are other sandwich shops, there are other burger joints, there are other types of food in and around this establishment, but they have done something that's not only allowed them to become a recognized name in Michigan, they've become a recognized name across the country. Right? One of the top, I think the number 3 food truck in America, like one of the top 50 restaurants in America. I mean, like really good food, a really great reputation, but they're also doing good for their employees.
Right. So what they say is, from the beginning, this is a quote from their website, from the beginning, we built Detroit 75 Kitchen around one belief: None of the growth matters if the food is not good enough to make people go out of their way for it. Mike set the standard in the kitchen. Ahmad helped shape the direction of the brand and the business behind it. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just real work, consistency, and respect for the craft.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really shows in, I think the thing that was most telling for me in the videos that you sent me to watch, you're talking about employees in food service who've been there 10 years, 12 years. That is pretty unprecedented in the food services industry where the turnover is like 2 to 3 months.
I get goosebumps when you say, I'm like, oh, 12 years. And like they don't sound mad about it.
Right. Yeah. They're like happy to be there. And, it's just another day in close quarters in their tiny little food truck kitchen. And this isn't like a 1 or a 2 man operation. They're, 4 or 5 people, 6 people inside that truck, moving around, working the line, doing the things that they need to do to keep the business hopping. And when you have employees that are there for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, that's institutional knowledge. And sometimes you don't think about, well, it's a food truck. What do you mean institutional knowledge? Okay, all those recipes become body memory. All of the settings become body memory. All of the faces that you see regularly when they're coming to the counter to order, and you build those relationships with those buyers. But that's body memory. Oh yeah, you always ordered this sandwich. And that's an efficiency that you can't duplicate when you have to hire new people into your organization every 2 to 4 months because people are quitting because
you're not treating them right.
Right. You're not treating them right. Yeah, essentially that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me too is that most people don't think about it. I won't say most people. Most people, when they think about sort of food truck level food service, don't think about the need to build a tight team. But if you've ever worked back of house in a higher end kitchen, you know how important the relationships in the kitchen are to the quality of the food that comes out of the kitchen. Absolutely. And if you can keep your food truck people in the food truck for 8 years, 12 years, then you get that same level of intricate mesh that produces quality, that produces, oh, I know what you're going to need, and we're in the weeds, and I'm just going to throw this down the counter at you, and you're going to catch it, and we're going to keep going. You can't do that with people who are brand new. You can't.
Right. Yeah, the chemistry's not there. The institutional knowledge isn't there. The rapport is not there.
The loyalty's not there.
And I think that's the thing that's the most telling. Like, you don't stay at a job for 8 to 12 years just because you need a job. Right?
I mean, you do if you have to, but...
Well, I mean, not in food service.
Not in food service.
There are plenty of other places to go.
Right.
Like, even on that street, even on 4th Street, there are plenty of other restaurants that they could go work at. Why are they choosing Detroit 75 over Smashburger or one of the other joints up and down that strip? Is because of the living wage. It's because of the way they treat their employees. It's because of knowing they're going to get their weekends off for the most part. I mean, those kinds of quality of life issues, especially when you're working in food service, are as important as the pay in a lot of respects, because food service joints are all over the place, right? Like, there's plenty of supply. How are you going to take care of people?
The mechanics of working in food service, the mechanics of like cooking something, are not that different place to place to place.
Right.
That's why you can go to culinary school and then go work somewhere.
Right.
But the skills are maybe a little bit more detailed or refined if you go to culinary school, but you can learn them on the job just as well, and people do just as well. And so you have a highly mobile workforce.
Yes.
And when you have sort of like during the .com boom when you had like a whole bunch of coders. That's less true now, but during the .com boom when there were like all these coders and they were highly mobile, and companies were not as good as Chef Mike at figuring out how to hang on to their people.
Well, I think too, a lot can be said for just the ethos of these owners, right?
Right.
Mike's whole management style in the kitchen speaks volumes to why these people are so loyal in the first place. Yes, they're being paid a living wage, sure. But what are some of the other things that they're doing well that make this a standout business compared to some of the other joints, even just right in their own vicinity?
I mean, I think fundamentally, Chef Mike, at least from his social, obviously we don't know. Like, we're not in his kitchen. But
right, we're looking at the highlight reels, but from the highlight reels, here's what we're seeing, right?
Yeah, but from the reels, literally, the Facebook reels that he's posting, what we're seeing is that fundamentally he thinks of his staff as people. And he treats them as people. He treats them the way you would want to be treated. He treats them the way he would presumably want his relatives to be treated. The way he would want to be treated. And so for example, he has one reel where he's like, why are you charging your staff to eat while they're on the job if they're in a restaurant? Like, that is absurd. Don't do that. Just let them eat food off the menu.
Yeah.
Which, it seems obvious to me, but I know from my own experience and from talking to other people in food service that it absolutely is not normal.
No, especially if you're looking at large food services. So there is someone in my family who's currently working for a major fast food retail chain, and they have a cap. You can order X dollars worth of food off the menu and we'll cover it, but beyond that, you have to pay for it yourself. And I understand you shrink and loss, and you don't want somebody coming in and ordering food for 25 people and then taking it out of the kitchen. I get that, but I'm sorry, if I want a hamburger today and I don't want to eat the same hamburger I've always eaten, maybe today I want it with a couple of extra somethings or maybe a different kind of meat on my sandwich, and you're like, well, that's going to cost you $2 more. That's ridiculous.
Especially when you're paying someone somewhere between $7.25 and $10 an hour.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're already driving a revenue up by keeping employee costs down, continuing to drive that down even further and making them take it out of their already small paycheck to cover the difference on their food does not instill loyalty, does not make them want to come back to work the next day. And
it doesn't make them feel cared for. I mean, it's
right.
$2 out of the entire revenue of the entire day. Let's say you have 15 employees. That's $30.
Right.
It's $30. Just pay them. You're probably going to go out to dinner and spend $30 on one entree somewhere this month. Like, just pay them and feed them.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me. My mom used to say, dropping dollars to pick up dimes, right? And we see that so often. And I get that, especially in the food industry, margins can be super, super tight. I get it. And if you're looking at this through the lens that Chef Mike is looking at it through, like, you get the money on the back end because you get the value on the front end, right? From the people that are working with you. And I think the other thing that I really appreciated was Mike's in the kitchen too, right? Mike, he's like, this is my kitchen. I run this kitchen, but I work in this kitchen. I'm making sandwiches too. I am training people too. I am doing, my elbows are right there rubbing alongside yours as we work together. And I think that's also a very important piece that gets overlooked, because when your founder owner steps out of the day-to-day of the business, things can change, right? The energy can change in the space. And sometimes that will prevent a business from growing the way that it otherwise could, because now he's an overseer and, now it becomes like slave driver or whatever. I mean, that kind of energy, right? Like I've heard that term used. And here he's just another one of the guys, another one of the crew on the line working another Tuesday, making sandwiches for the truckers that are coming up on the freeway. And you see it in the face of his employees. They all know they're in this together. They all know they've got each other's backs, and you can see it on their faces. There's nobody in those videos who's like, I just want to keep my head down and get to the end of my shift.
Don't talk about me.
Right. Like, I don't want to. They're all like, we love it here. It's great. And yes, maybe that's the highlight reel, but my sense is, in all the footage that we've looked at, that is the norm, not the exception.
Yeah, I don't think he would be able to throw on his camera and just film if that weren't the norm.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you how much adjusting I have to do in my house, in my door with a door shut office, right? Like, just to get ready to film. I can't imagine trying to film in a kitchen if there was something I was trying to hide.
Right. Exactly. A food truck does not give you a lot of room to hide much of anything.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
It's a long, skinny galley kitchen, and everything has to be cheek by jowl. It's like cooking in a boat.
Yeah. And they've done a really great job of expanding the outside area to really transform a gas station parking lot. I mean, that's really what it is. Like they've really, and this goes to Ahmad's skill set, right? Like he's all about the brand experience. How are people going to talk about this? I was reading some older press where he was like, we want to do merchandising and we want to do all these things, and like fast forward 5 or 6 years, and like they're doing those things, right? All of the things that they said they wanted to do, they're rolling out. And the thing that I like most is they're taking these small bets, right? Like they're doing these small experiments. They started and they were like, we are not open on the weekends, which historically for a company like that would be like the busiest time. Saturdays and Sundays, everybody's out, let's go get some food. And they're like, nope, our people need the time off. And they've done pop-up locations in a couple of places. Not a permanent place, not we're going to be here from 8 to 5 every day. It's like, we're going to show up for a while and see how it goes. And those kinds of experiments have allowed them to go, okay, we can open up a real brick and mortar location here based on the data that we've collected from these experiments. And in an era where we have a lot of people who are coming into entrepreneurship, throwing out their shingle, and the stakes are so high, they've got to make it work like right now. Yeah. Being able to see other companies say, let's experiment, let's not rush this, let's take our time and do it well, allows these people coming into business to go, there is a different way to do this. One that doesn't have to put a lot of pressure on us. One that doesn't have to create a lot. I mean, they started it in their parents' parking lot, for crying out loud, right? That was an experiment to just see what can we do. And it snowballed into something bigger because quality was at the foundation of it from the start.
Right. And I think that speaks to the way that the DNA of a company impacts the company's culture and behavior going forward. So I talk in my work a lot about systems theory, which basically says that when a system, which is just a bunch of people doing something together, when a system is impacted in some way, that impact carries forward unless something happens to actually change it. So the classic in psychology is, of course, the alcoholic family system, where you have, somebody was alcoholic in 1853 and it affected everyone's behavior. And one of the things it did was it made everybody not drink. Like, we are just not a family that drinks after that. So, through the 1800s into the 1900s and then into the 2000s, right? This family doesn't drink. They don't really know why anymore. They don't remember the behavior, but they're all still shaping their behavior according to that thing that happened to the system in 1853. And in this case, they started as an experiment. And so the beauty is that they are continuing as experimenters because that's how they started. And so it's in their DNA. It's in the way that the system knows how to move and understands itself. And that's gorgeous.
Yeah. And it from a perspective of capacity, right? It allows them to stress test without collapsing the health and well-being of the business itself. And I think as a culture, a business culture, we hear a lot about fail fast and fail often. And it's like, can we just avoid some of the failure? Because there's a lot of cost involved in failing.
Right. You could fail, but you don't have to.
Yeah. If going a little bit slower means we don't fail, why don't we do that instead? Right. Why don't we take the time to step back and go, what's really going to serve us? What's really going to serve our right audience? What's really going to serve our people? And how do we find the nexus point for all of those things instead of let's just throw something out there and see what comes of it. And then we got to iterate again and again and again. And then we're in this anxious energy of we've got to find something that works instead of we've got the breathing room to make some decisions and try something without it causing collapse.
Right. And I just want to take a brief detour here that I didn't put in our notes. I'm sorry. But as we're talking, I'm thinking about both of us live in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And here in Portland, specifically around food trucks, we have this thing that I haven't really seen anywhere else. It may exist somewhere else. But here, instead of having food trucks just willy-nilly wherever on the street, what we have is these things called food truck pods, where somebody will build out a parking lot with more often now than it used to be because of regulations, a little bit of drainage and a little bit of sort of infrastructure for each food truck. And then they all park side by side in this, what is essentially a souped up parking lot. And then people can come and sit and eat. Usually they put out some tables. Sometimes now there's a building that has washrooms and sometimes alcohol being served because it can't be served outdoors. And it gives restaurants exactly that kind of flexibility. So if you have a restaurant idea, you don't have to get up all of the funding, and it's a lot of funding to rent and build out an actual brick and mortar space. You need to get yourself a truck, and they're always for sale, and fit it out with your stuff, get some latex paint the outside, and go.
Yeah. Yeah. That agility in experimentation, especially right now, especially in the midst of all the changes that we're experiencing right now economically, those agile companies are the ones that have the ability to weather these storms because they have some flex, right? Because they're equipped to say, well, we're not going to try all the things. And one of the things that I talk about when a company's trying to grow is something called the expansion reflex. Do something, anything, everything, let's go, right? And when you have a lot of resources, that's a thing that you can do. You can throw a lot of spaghetti. Right. But when you don't have a lot of resources, there's still this urge to do something, fix something, anything. Oh my God, let's try that. Let's try this. Let's try. And then what ends up happening is you're diluting the resources and you're spreading yourself so thin that your system is going to collapse.
Right.
And baking experimentation into the business model allows you to have a budget for R&D, for lack of a better way to describe it, right? We've got a budget to try some things, but we're going to protect the golden goose that is the core business model. And we're not going to drain our resources from there because that's the thing that keeps the ship afloat.
Right. And it can be something as simple, again, going back to the concrete example we're working with, it can be something as simple as Chef Mike has another video where he's like, you don't need a huge menu. You just do a few things well.
Yeah.
And when you're a food truck, you almost have permission to do that because you're operating small and lean and everybody knows that. It's obvious from looking at your setup. So if you don't have 85 things on the menu, of course you don't. Where are you going to store all that food? It's a food truck. It all has to fit in there somewhere.
That's right. That's right. And the thing that's really super smart about streamlining the menu and proof that he's speaking from experience. And again, for those of you who are in the audience, we don't know these folks.
No.
Everything we're talking about is stuff that we have seen from the outside. So I did a ton of Googling when I was researching this company. And if you go to their Google page and you look at the pictures of the menu, you can see that the menu has changed over the years. They had more items and they started to whittle some of them away. They bring something out, they take it away, right? This is the value of experimentation because it allows you to get feedback in real time from the people who are trying what's on the menu. Right. But it also allows you to cut the stuff that isn't giving you the return on investment that you need. Whereas maybe 3 doors down at the restaurant down the street, it sells like gangbusters. It's not selling for you. You can cut it and let them go buy it over there and know that your core audience of the things that you do well, that you've become known for, like their shawarma wrap, nobody else around there is doing that. And it sells well. So it's still on the menu after 10 years.
Right. And it probably doesn't sell that well. Like if somebody else nearby tried to do it, everybody who knows the restaurant, knows the location, would be like, why are you doing that? Go to Detroit 75. They're the best one on the block. End of story. And so I think letting specialization happen is also a really important thing for us, especially when we feel like we're in a tight market, right? When you feel like you're in competition with other people. Part of it is just vibes, especially in businesses like your business and my business. Like, it's just who's the best fit. But some of it is people become known for a particular kind of thing or a particular piece of the pie. And it's much better to be like, oh, we sell shawarma, but that guy down the street makes the best donuts. We're not even going to, like, we don't have a fryer. We're not starting that up. Go down and get your donut over there where the donuts are excellent, because that's all they do.
Yeah. And that is the opportunity to take advantage of the long tail, right? Like, there are diehard fans of vinyl records who will never buy audio in another format if they can avoid it, right? And there's a long tail audience for vinyl, so much so that vinyl's making a comeback.
Right.
Right? And in an environment like this where there's all kinds of food, and you're in Detroit, for crying out loud, so there's really all kinds of food because it is a multicultural melting pot of deliciousness, right? So why are we going to try and make something for everyone? Because we're not going to be able to compete well. Instead, let's look at what are some things that we can do uniquely. Like, everybody's got a chicken sandwich. How do we do ours differently? What makes ours worth coming back for? And that was one of the things that I saw on their website was, we want to do things that make people want to come back, right? Make people want to be here for the long haul. So you get people coming off an airplane, coming straight from the airport to the kitchen so that they can have a sandwich with their luggage in tow, right? Truckers are coming off the freeway, pulling up to get gas, and they're walking over to get a sandwich. And now they make this the stop when they come off the freeway coming over from Canada because they want that sandwich. They want that food. They want to be there.
They're thinking about that sandwich as they're sitting in line at customs.
That's right. And that doesn't happen when you have food that's fine.
Right. And it doesn't happen when you have food that's generic. Right? It has to be excellent, but it also has to be interesting or specific enough. And I think that that's true, that's true across businesses, right? If you have something that's interesting and specific enough, then people will come to you for that interesting, specific enough thing. Let me tell you a story about a notebook I saw online just the other day. I have a sort of a growing fountain pen thing, and I'm trying to find like the right notebook for me to really get in my groove about it. And that's a little tricky because fountain pen ink is a little finicky. And I saw the other day an ad for a notebook that instead of having printed ruled lines, they had watermarked lines. So when you're writing, you can see them, but as the writing goes onto the page, the contrast changes in such a way that your eyes don't really perceive the lines anymore. So you get the advantage of the lines for keeping your writing organized, and then when you're looking back at it, if you have diagrams or whatever, like, it doesn't interfere with your viewing of the... And I thought, that sounds like the perfect solution. So it's sold at like 10 shops, including SF MoMA, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art gift shop. And I was like, oh, well, that's not a hopeful sign for the pricing. And then I finally called a stationery shop in Seattle that has it, because that was the nearest place. And they were like, we do have one. I'm double checking because it's marked $79. And I was like, yeah, that's not an amount of money. I wouldn't want to write in a notebook if I spent $79 on it. I think I wouldn't be able to bring myself to write in it.
Oh, see, I would have to like go someplace special to write in that book. It would be like my ceremonial writing book, right? Like,
but I would also have to have like ceremonial brain. And these days, I don't really achieve ceremonial.
I feel that.
Brain.
I feel that. But that brings up a good question, or a good point about pricing.
Yeah.
Because in my research around this company, their pricing is significantly higher than what you're finding in the neighborhood around them, right? And I think they can get away with that for a couple of reasons. One, because they've made it a destination location. Mm-hmm. They've made it an attraction in and of itself, so people are willing to pay a little more for the branding and the prestige of being in their space and ordering their food. The other thing that I think is, because of the quality of the ingredients that they're using, that's going to cost more. Because they're paying their people a living wage, it's going to cost more. I think in my email,
because they're halal, that's going to cost more.
Right. And I think I said to you in the email that I sent to you, they're charging Portland prices
Right.
in Detroit. And that is not a small difference. And you're talking about, and I gotta pull up my charts now, my charts and my diagrams, because I looked at the median income households just for comparison's sake, right? So you're talking about the median household income in Detroit is about 40 grand. In Portland, it's more than double that, like 90 grand, right? The per capita income in Detroit, about 24,000. In Portland, 57,000. Persons in poverty, 32% in Detroit, 12% in Portland, right? So that also tells me that they are, as much as they want to be serving their community, there's a portion of their community that they have priced out. They have made an intentional choice to price out. Now, that's not right or wrong, good or bad in the context of I have a business, these are the goals and objectives that I want to achieve, right? And we also have to acknowledge that because we are in capitalism, we have to make trade-offs and choices.
Right.
Right? Do I charge what everybody else around me is charging? But then that means I have to lower the rate of pay for my people, which means I'm going to have the kind of turnover that they're having at their places.
And I'm not going to be in integrity as a business owner. Like I'm going to feel out of integrity there.
Right. Or do I raise those prices, create a quality experience for everyone connected to it, me, my staff, our customers, etc., and recognize that means there are going to be some people who can't afford to come to us, even in our own community, right? We have to make those decisions as business owners. And one of the things that I think I would applaud them for is they've also, when they opened up their new brick and mortar location, they opened up in Madison Heights. Madison Heights has substantially higher incomes and still has the same kind of traffic that they would get. And now Madison Heights is it's a Detroit suburb, so it's not like they've gone so far away that it's forever away. Right. But it's a strategic move to go where the money's at for the audience that they want to attract. So I think you get to have both in that respect, right? Like we get to continue to serve the people that we built this company for, and we can take advantage of an audience that has more disposable income so that we can have a brick and mortar location that's open year round and is open for one shift on Saturdays.
Right.
And still lets our people be well taken care of.
Right. And when he did open on Saturdays, he said, first of all, this is an experiment. If it doesn't work out, we're going to stop. And secondly, I'm still going to give people 2 days off consecutively. It just won't be Saturday, right? It'll be some other day of the week, which I think is A, staying in integrity, but B, really smart to communicate clearly about your principles. He has all these videos about my people don't work on weekends. My people get 2 days off like everybody else because that's what we need to be okay. And then we come in and we're happy to be there. So if you've made such a stand on a principle and then you decide to change your choices around that principle, it's important to A, maintain those principles, and B, explain to people what you're doing.
Yeah, because business doesn't exist in a vacuum and we don't exist in a vacuum, right? Like when the pandemic hit, lots of choices were made, lots of decisions were had to decide what we're going to do and what we're not going to do and what we're going to keep and what we're going to cut and how are we going to, especially in food service, how are we going to continue to be able to do anything when people can't come into our space? That it would be easy to say food trucks had it easier because they didn't have some of those things, but that's not necessarily true either. What is true is that being in those environments where you have to make those kinds of decisions and knowing that things are going to change because we're not in a vacuum.
Right.
That's when you're really put to the test as a business owner. That's when you're really put to the test. Well, you said that this is what you value. How are you going to walk that talk? And now that circumstances in the world have changed, how has that changed your perspective on that talk you wanted to walk? Right. Because maybe it's the same and maybe it's not. Maybe it's, hey, I really wanted to be able to give people 2 days off in a row and we're not getting the employees to make that possible. Like we don't have the demand for people to work, so I have to call somebody in. Now, the nice thing is when you've got a company that has, and we're going to talk about another company later this year who has like I don't know, 14,000 people on the wait list to want to work for them, right?
Right.
When you have that kind of spaciousness around the people who are coming in, this isn't a question of, do I give them 2 days off on a Saturday or not? It's, who am I going to put in the right spot?
Right.
But when you don't have that volume of people waiting and chomping at the bit to be in your space, you do have to make more strategic decisions. You do have to make trade-offs sometimes. You do have to think differently about what you said you wanted versus what the reality of having is going to look like.
And sometimes it's just about finding the people who want what you can offer.
Yes. That's true.
Because, like a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to be open nights and weekends because who wants to work nights and weekends? In fact, there are a bunch of people who would rather just work nights or just work weekends. A lot of times the biggest need, so I'm working on a new book about best business practices. And one of the things that I keep thinking, I keep being like, I need to write that down. I already wrote it down, is that you need to make sure that you're thinking broadly about what people want. Because just because you don't want it doesn't mean that there isn't someone whose natural wake-up time is 10 o'clock or noon and who would love to work a night shift, second or third shift if they could get consistent work hours, right? If they knew that they were on night shift 5 days a week, like everybody else, just late, they would be happy as a little clam at high tide.
Yeah. Finding the right people, putting the right people in the right roles, that makes a huge difference. And it feels to me from what we've seen that Mike and Ahmad have really done a good job of putting the right people in the right roles because they have that longevity of their employees. And that also gives them, because they've got that stability, the opportunity to experiment in ways of, okay, well, we're gonna try being open on Saturdays for one shift, 11 to 6. Who wants to do that? Let's see how that goes. No promises that this is forever, but if it sticks, it sticks, and we'll work it out on the other end and see if there's another set of days that you can have off. So
or maybe you have some kind of other thing in your life, and it's actually convenient for you to have discontinuous days off.
Right.
Sometimes the right person falls into the right spot, and it's the right thing for their life at that moment. The key is not forcing people to work shifts that don't work for them.
Yeah, and I think that's the banner that you could slap on just about anything. The key is to just not force people.
Yes.
right. Like let's not force people to show up in all these different ways and do all these different things and have to toe a line that they were never designed to toe in the first place.
Right.
And when we can look at, this is how I'm wired. And so this is what works for me. That's great when you're a solopreneur or a very micro business owner. But when you start bringing other people into the organization, you have to blow that lens up. Yes, this is what works for me. We're not going to totally disregard that. And what works for the staff? What works for the customers? What works? Where is the Venn diagram where the most people can be the happiest?
How close can we get this to a circle?
Right, exactly. And let's keep moving in that direction. And I think this is a great example of an organization that is trying to do that in many of the right ways. Right.
And like you said, there's no 100% perfect company. Like we're just, there's no way to hit all of the marks, but we can work really hard and make it a really high priority. And I think we should be. I think that we're in this moment right now where we move from move fast and break things to move fast and break people. And that has become...
Just saying that, I'm just like, oh, you're not wrong. Oh, God, in my soul. Yeah.
And that's painful, and it causes moral injury to everybody involved in the system, including the consumers who are kind of only half willingly being, yes, we're buying the stuff, but maybe you just really need to buy groceries from someone, right? And so we can't just extract ourselves from everything, and yet we know that the systems that we're participating in are increasingly immoral and increasingly inhumane. And so when you want to make a standout company, especially when you're starting out, you want to build a standout company, one of the best things you can do in this market is exactly what Mike and Ahmad have done, and build a standout example of a company that treats its people like people. And when I say its people, I mean its audience, its social media audience, like the greater group of people that affiliate themselves, and the customers, and the staff, and the founders, like everybody. Let's treat everybody
and
like
the community. People. Like one of the things that really struck me was how involved in Detroit Metro civics they are, right? Like not just in, well, we're going to bring the food truck and we're going to serve food, but there are plenty of articles and posts of Ahmad being in the community as a community leader, cutting a ribbon somewhere or talking about this project here and having his fingers in the pies that are shaping the community that is Detroit, not just, hey, we own a sandwich shop, come check us out. You know?
Right, and then I'm going to commute to my house. Like maybe he does live outside of Detroit. I don't know, but he doesn't feel like he's disinterested or disconnected from Detroit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. One more thing two more things I want to highlight before we finish up. Sure. One is that they really have this ethos of generosity that I appreciate. Like not just pay your people well, not just make sure your people are eating on shift and therefore familiar with your menu, which is another side bonus of having people eat the food on the menu. Right. Because otherwise, if it's too expensive, they'll just bring food from home and they won't even know what stuff tastes like. But also on his social media site, he spends a bunch of time explaining recipes. He runs a restaurant. Do you know how rare it is for restaurants to share the recipes that are actually making them famous? But he's aware that he has a much larger audience than the people that can actually come to his restaurant in Detroit. And I think his belief is that if you see how good the food is and you see how he makes it, you'll want to come. Next time I'm in Detroit, will I try to go? Yes, I will. I don't know when the next time I'll be in Detroit will be, but I used to fly through Detroit all the time. And before that, I was living in Canada and commuting back and forth through Detroit. If I had run across them at a different time in my life, they might have become my border crossing stop. So this generosity, and then he's giving away business strategy. Now, does it let him be a little opinionated and create maybe a little friction, a little controversy, and stand up for himself? Like the other thing I wanted to mention is that nobody is confused about what he believes.
Right.
It's that Hamilton line, if you stand for nothing, what'll you fall for? Right? He stands for things. He stands on what he believes, and he says it out loud with his whole chest on the internet. And if you don't like it, don't shop here.
Yeah.
But this ethos of not being stingy, of giving away the business advice that has made his business strong, and also the recipes that have made his business strong, and allowing people to get a taste or to see how complicated it is. But he's like, no, this is easy. You can do it at home. Here's how you do it. Like that welcoming, come on in, sit down feeling makes people feel welcome. Yeah. And that's good for business.
Yeah. And I think that's also a really great way to give back. I don't want to say vicariously, but that's the word that's coming to mind right now. Give back vicariously to the community that can't afford to buy from him right now, right? Hey, if you're in the area and you love our food and you can't, like, here's the recipe. You can make it at home, right? Like that is... And this is something that I talk about a lot, is like when you have a financial accessibility policy, right? Especially when you are a smaller organization, you're not going to be able to serve everybody. You're just not, right? And there are going to be people who traditionally can't afford you, and you may still want to work with them.
Right.
And what are the ways that you can bake into your business model that allow you to do that, right? For me, for many years, I had a stray cat fund. And it was like, all right, I have full pay clients, and then I have some clients that I work with pro bono that are subsidized by the revenue that I get from those other people. And I would be able to take in a couple of stray cats and tend to their needs for a little while and then send them on their way, right? And that for me was what I could do to be financially accessible with the constraints that I had around my life and my financial needs, and still wanting to be of service. And so I think there's always an opportunity for us, if we're willing to look for it, to say, how do we be of greater service in the things that we're already doing? Right? That allow us to leave the world a little better off than it was when we found it.
Right. And often it's just having, so the extreme of that is Heretic Coffee.
Right.
here in PDX, where when the SNAP benefits got cut, they started a SNAP meal program. So if you walk in and you say, I need a SNAP meal, there's a standard meal. It's not fancy, but it's food, and you can just have it for the asking. And they post on their Facebook feed every day, like, this is how many people didn't go hungry today because they came in and got a SNAP meal. And so that's kind of the extreme of that, is having something that's free that people can access. Some of us do it by having YouTube material that people can just access. Some of us do it by having podcasts or by having pamphlets or free downloads. And then, the next notch up is in the sort of in the business coaching world is having a book or a PDF that's like $25.
Yep.
Okay, you can't afford to coach with me. I get it. There have been times in my life where I certainly couldn't afford my own rates.
Same.
But I've written a lot of this stuff down. So here's the $20 access point. And then maybe you'll have a question and you want to hire me for an hour. And then the next step up is to have some kind of sliding fee scale or a stray cat fund or some combination of those things.
Sure.
I think there are all these things that we can do. And I haven't combed through their menu to see if there's like a couple of low priced things. But that's what I would do if I were pricing out a lot of my community, is I would be like, here's a basic food that you can come in and be treated like every other customer and order that's not as expensive as everything else. I wouldn't point it out. I would just stick it on the menu along with everything else.
Sure. Well, and I think, so you said a couple of things there that I think are important to acknowledge. One, I think especially in the online world where cynicism runs high, it's really easy to look at all of the free content in the form of podcasts and videos and those kinds of things and go, well, it's just marketing. And it is marketing to some degree, sure. But it's also that level of support for those people who would not otherwise be able to reach out to us. So the invitation is there for us to remember that not everything is a cash grab, even if it's free, right? Like, there are people trying to do good work in the world here and just give. And the benefit on the other side is sometimes it turns out to be good marketing too. But then the other piece that you said that I thought was really important just flew out of my brain, so it's gone. But it was important, and I can't remember what it was. Now, so.
Well, it's in the recording. We'll find it.
We'll find it.
Yeah. But I think one of the things about the freebies too is that we tend to devalue certain kinds of free material and then expect other kinds. So, for example, the number of crafts I have learned just from watching YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. Like, straight up, everything I know about sewing, I learned off of YouTube. All right, almost everything. I learned how to thread a sewing machine from the instruction book. But, and we kind of expect that crafters will provide detailed tutorials and detailed information about how to do their craft, and that we can go to YouTube and learn that for free. Which you used to have to at least buy a book, if not take a class, or find an apprenticeship. And yet when somebody provides something similar in, say, the business world, we're like, oh, well, it's just a cash grab. No, it's free. It's free learning. It's free teaching.
Right.
Like, you can take it or leave it. That's fine. But it's here because somebody has something they're so passionate about that they want to share it. There used to be a guy who unfortunately died of brain cancer, but his name... his handle on YouTube was the Puppet Nerd. He was an elementary school teacher who made puppets, and I mean puppets, like Muppet level puppets, for all kinds of, like, professionally as a side gig. But instead of just doing it, he taught it, and he had classes for kids because he was a teacher and he loved working with kids, and he had some classes for adults. But he had like the free stuff on YouTube, and you could download the pattern for his free kids, like, fuzzy puppet like this for, I don't know, $10. And then there was the next notch up, which was like a Skillshare class or something you could pay for. And then, if you really wanted to, at one point he was teaching workshops that you could go attend. But, like, the whole range was right there because he loved it. And he was, there was no arguing about the level of professionalism he offered. But also he was like, this is really simple. Get yourself some fuzzy fabric. You don't even need a sewing machine because it doesn't even go through... Fuzzy fabric doesn't go through the sewing machine that well. Just get yourself a needle and thread, some fuzzy fabric, and we're going to make a puppet.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing that I wanted to say. It doesn't matter what of those options you choose.
Right.
Like the goal here is not to be like, I'm going to have a sliding scale with 55 different offers at 35 different price points. No. The invitation here is to look at the bigger picture. And remember that Venn diagram. What works for me? What works for them? What works for us? And find the places that are a logical step for you to step into and go, oh, I could do a straight cat fund, or, oh, I could do a reduced price or a free meal, or I could do, we could do this in our business. It's not, right. I am a very firm believer that if we want to change a system, change only comes from inside this. You have to be in the system in order to make the changes that then radiate out into the world. Now, if you're outside the system, you can influence actors inside the system, but the change happens from inside the system, or we have to burn it all down.
Right.
I'm not one to want to burn it all down. I'm one of those people that you were talking about earlier. It's like, I'm here. I'm kind of liking some of the things that I'm not happy with everything, but I'm here. And if we're in that system, you're not going to be able to fix everything all at once. Try an experiment. Do something, not everything, not anything. Try something with intention and see how it works for you. See how it works for them. See what the feedback is and see if it's something that you can incorporate into your business model. And if it's not, then set it aside and try something else with the same kind of intention behind it. And you will find the mix for yourself that allows you to be profitable, to be sustainable, to be healthy, to do well, to do well for your people,
right.
and to do well for yourself.
Right. To do well by doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the core of what I'm hearing you say is integrity. Stay in integrity. Do the right thing for you, for your systems, for your beliefs, stay within that, and don't be afraid to say, we don't do this, we don't do that, we're not open on Saturdays, or we're open on Saturdays, but only assuming we can give people 2 days off. It may be that they look at that and they're like, if we can't give people 2 days off in a row, we're just not going to be open on Saturdays anymore. We're ending that. But it may also be that they're tapping a whole new pool of employees out in Madison Heights, and that needs are different, situations are different. I think there's so much pressure. One of the reasons I started this podcast and this business is because there's so much pressure when you start a business. People are all constantly telling you, and books are telling you, podcasts are telling you, you can't do that, you can't do this, that's not how business works, you just have to toughen up, you just have to this, you just have to that. And it's all bullshit. It's all nonsense.
Yep. Yeah.
And instead, you can just say, it's okay. If you don't like it, people come to me all the time and they're like, I don't like to be put in a box. I don't know why you're making this framework that puts people in a box. I have a personality framework, for those of you who don't know. And I always say to them, if it doesn't work for you, don't use it. I absolutely do not want this to be pressure on anybody for whom it's not useful. It's just in the world to be useful. It started because I said a few things and they made sense to people and they supported people and it felt useful to them. And I want this, I went to the effort of putting it more robustly in the world because I want it to be useful. I want it to be of service. If it's not serving you, just walk by. Just put it down. Right. Don't tell anyone if you think it's terrible. Don't talk to people about it.
When you have
people
a
who like
toolbox,
it will talk about it.
That's right.
And I think that just stay in your lane. Don't let Instagram get to you. Don't let the business companies get to you. Just do what feels right to you, what makes sense to you, and what makes logical sense for your business.
Yeah. In a toolbox, you can have 14 different kinds of screwdrivers. And if you need a Phillips screwdriver, a star-headed screwdriver is not going to help you.
No.
But it's a very helpful tool if you have the right kind of, screw for that screwdriver. And all of these options, when you're building business models, when you're looking at how you want to design and run your business model or business, there are so many choices, right? They're all tools. How you choose to use them or not use them is what creates your particular iteration of business. And those choices will attract a certain kind of audience, and another kind of audience will be like, that's not for me. And you know what? That's cool, because those people get to go somewhere else and get their needs met because they're the Phillips head screwdriver people and you're not. And that's cool. Like, that's the way it needs to be. We need to recognize that instead of how many more customers can I, how many more markets can I corner, and how many more people can I amass, and how much more can I extract. That frenetic take energy does not ultimately serve, and you alluded to this earlier, you said, it doesn't serve these people. It ultimately doesn't serve the people at the top of the quote-unquote pyramid either. They just have enough money to insulate themselves from the effects of it for longer.
Right. They have cushion.
Yeah.
And that cushion often makes people not as good at decision making.
True.
Because they don't know. They can't feel it. My father used to drive an Oldsmobile, and it went when he drove it. And I hated driving that car because I couldn't feel the road. I didn't know what was happening. I wanted, I drive a Subaru, and I wanted to feel the road. I wanted to feel if the wheel was being pulled, I wanted to feel that it was being pulled so that I knew something was happening under the tires.
Makes a difference.
It does. Well, this has been delightful.
Indeed.
I have really enjoyed recording with you today. I am looking forward to recording next time. Do you want to tell people where to find you on the internet?
Sure. The easiest way to find me is to go to lisarobinyoung.com. Robin's got 2 B's. If you only type 1 B, you'll miss me. You won't find me. And then I am Lisa Robin Young on most of the socials. If I've got a social profile, that's how you'll find me.
And I am at intensivesinstitute.com, but more now at alegianoconsulting.com, which has the terrible branding problem of being hard to spell. Aleix. Alegiano. And I will put all of our stuff in the show notes. I also just want to shout out the actual locations of Detroit 75.
Yeah.
The flagship location is at 4800 West Fort Street in Detroit. Their phone number is 313-843-3215, and their hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6, and Friday, 10 to 8, closed Saturdays and Sundays. The Madison Heights location, which has sit-down dining, which the other place doesn't, or has eat-in dining, which the other place doesn't, is 32275 Stevenson Highway, Madison Heights, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-653-5555. They are open Monday through Friday, 10 to 8, and Saturday, 11 to 6, still closed Sunday, because we have to have some principles.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. This has been PowerPivot Season 3, a podcast about using the power in your business for good, with host Leela Sinha of the Intensives Institute and Alegiano Consulting. With Zim, you heard co-host Lisa Robin Young. The podcast is produced by Leela Sinha with support by William Jameson. To support our podcast and other related work, please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/LeelaS.